All right, ladies and gentlemen. So it looks like PlayStation is not backing down on this decision. It looks like they are 100% on board with this, and they already had plans as to bringing down the production of these physical discs and whatnot. And Paul Tassi, over from Forbes, he made an article kind of breaking down this news. And yeah, let's take a look at that article because this is a terrible decision that PlayStation is doing, and honestly, quite something that I don't think I'm gonna be looking forward to anything going forward from PlayStation. But let's get into this and let's see what he has to say here. So here in the Forbes article here, he says angry gamers won't get Sony to change its mind over PlayStation disc this time. The industry is still reeling from Sony's announcement that as of 2028, physical discs for new PlayStation games will be dead, ushering in an all digital future. It's the end point of something that has been building for two console generations now, though pushback led some early proponents, like Microsoft, to scale back its plans to make disc irrelevant in the Xbox One era. Now, it's over. And yeah, I do remember when Xbox did come out with the I believe it was the Xbox One, and they were announcing this like DRM stuff, and pretty much making pushing that digital only was going to be like the way that you can kind of like play and whatnot. So they were kind of ahead of the curve for their time. But no one would have assumed that PlayStation was going to follow suit. But here we go. There is no stopping PlayStation this time, and in turn, probably no stopping Xbox either. In Sony's case, I noted yesterday that this was the angriest fans have been about a decision the console manufacturer has made in 20 years, all the way back to the absurdly high PS3 price announcement. But it may even be more significant than that, as this is sticking. It's a done deal. And he breaks down as to why and is a sea change for the entire industry. In the past, the Sony controversies were in fact dictated by fan anger in the end. The comically high $600 PS3 price was reduced to $500 not that long after. Then $400 and then eventually $300 as the generation progressed. Then there was crossplay, which Sony blockaded until the tide became overwhelming, and they simply had to agree to it. And I do remember when they did do that with crossplay. Yeah, it was like a whole big thing because Xbox was doing crossplay with PC players and stuff like that, and over on PlayStation you were just pretty much locked in just to PlayStation players. And I think it was with, I don't know if it was with Call of Duty, and people were just like they wanted to play across with like other friends who maybe had an Xbox or who maybe played on Steam or on their PCs. So they eventually did back off on that and then allow crossplay on the platform, on the PlayStation platform. Um, so going back to there, yeah, there was crossplay which Sony blockaded until the time became overwhelming, and they simply had to agree to it. In 2024, it announced it would require PC players to link Steam accounts to PSN accounts, a policy that made players furious, and it was reversed in days. And that was when what game was it? It was Helldivers 2. Yeah, when they were announcing, with Helldivers 2, you had to link your a PlayStation Network account to your Steam account in order to play the game. So here he goes on to say there is no recourse for the disc killing decision, even as fans are now louder than ever, drowning Sony in social media lambasting, with the larger media ecosystem amplifying concerns about ownership, preservation, and the lack of consumer choice that benefits Sony and only takes away from gamers. And it is true. I mean, Sony with this move, they have everything to gain. Sony has everything to gain from this. Because on their platform, let's say they do, which they are going to do when they go all digital, they have no incentive to give you more deals or more sales. What's the point? Why do that for you? Why? To do it for the goodness of their hearts? No. What they're going to do is that they're going to continue to price out these games at probably the new industry standard, which is going to be $80 for games, and they're going to keep it at that price for longer. You're gonna see less of a sale, especially for their exclusive titles, especially for the PlayStation exclusive titles. Like I can imagine, whenever they do like the God of War trilogy or whatever, I can imagine them pricing that for $80 and keeping it at $80 for as long as they can. And since there's gonna be no competition, because PlayStation is a closed ecosystem, right? It's not like on PC where you have Steam, you have Epic Games, you have the Microsoft store, you have a whole bunch of different storefronts that you can get games from, right? When it comes to PlayStation, since it's in this just one ecosystem, PlayStation has all control and they have no competition. When you have no competition, you're in full control. You can price games at whatever you want to price it at, and you pretty much dictate what you want to price games at, how much the sale will be, and whatnot. But as we go on in the article here, it says this is not some impulsive decision. Sony is reportedly already retasking at least one disc making factory to convert to making other components for the company, such as optical microlenses. It will ensure that there are no or minimal layoffs. As workers simply transition to something else, Sony will not kill these plans when something of this scale has already been in motion. So basically, what Paul Tassi is saying here is that there's already moves in these factories, the disc making factories. Um, they're already shutting down like the production lines for the disc for like the disc making sections, and pretty much just having those factories focus on other components for the company. Because as you know, Sony also they provide like cameras, high end cameras, the DSLR cameras and whatnot. So they're focusing on like optical micro lenses and whatnot like that. So as you can see, it looks like they're sticking to it. They are not going to back down from this decision, and it quite frankly sucks. But going on here, Paul Tassi goes on to say, then there's the PS6, which has been in development for years, with an all digital future no doubt already in mind. While nothing has been publicly announced about the PS6 other than the fact that yes, it exists, the plan appears to be that it would not arrive until at least 2028. When this policy is already implemented, the end result here would be a unified SKU, and if there were multiple SKUs at launch, it could be based on storage rather than the disk and digital models we've seen. The assumption is that something like a disk drive would be sold as an add on rather than as part of any one model. But at this point, it may not be safe to assume anything. This is one moment where gamers will not win, similar to what we saw when almost the entire industry agreed to raise baseline games prices to $70, and everyone just had to deal with it. Related to that, the obvious cost savings from no physical production and no retailer cut give Sony and Microsoft a bigger piece of the pie, with zero savings passed to the consumer. And with GTA 6 launching at $80, there's no guaranteeing that that doesn't become the standard going forward soon. Players are absolutely free to protest this and abandon PlayStation, but if the idea is to flee over to Xbox in the next generation, they may find themselves in the exact same situation. The corporations want to move on, and players will be forcibly dragged kicking and screaming into this unfriendly future. So, yeah, as you guys can see, basically what Paul Tassi is saying here is that Sony is dead set on this. It looks like they're not going to be changing course. But that last line there where, corporations want to move on and players will be forcibly dragged kicking and screaming to this unfriendly future, not me. PlayStation 5 will be officially my last PlayStation console. I've been gaming with PlayStation for the past 20 years. My first console with PlayStation was PS2. Loved Jack and Daxter, loved the games that came out on PS2. I believe that was one of the greatest generations, as well as the PS3. And I don't know. I mean, this is just kind of disappointing. It's kind of sad to see that this is where the industry is going with this, where Sony is going with this. Because quite frankly, less options for you, less options for the consumer is never a good thing. It just gives these corporations more power and pretty much gives them no incentive to do anything for you. and just takes away more gamer rights from you. So, um, like I said, I'm kind of disappointed with this, but I definitely will not be on board with PlayStation 6, especially if it's going to be all digital. There's just no incentive for me to jump on PlayStation 6. I can care less about the exclusives because the past couple of exclusives that have come out in this generation of PS5 haven't been anything great, haven't been anything like super notable that has made me like been like, wow, I need to get a PS5 for that, or I need to upgrade to a PS6 to play that better on PS6. I have not had that experience with this generation, so it's really much safe to say that yeah, PS5 will be my last PlayStation console. Sad to say that, but yeah, I want to know what are your guys' thoughts. I want to know if you guys are going to be sticking around for PlayStation and the PS6, or if you guys are also calling it quits and are just gonna majorly be like a PC and maybe Nintendo player going forward. But yeah, that's about it, guys, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.